That's it. Well, hello, everyone. I'm Bev Scott, and I is really excited to be here this morning and for all of you to join us. This is a big welcome. We are joined by a number of folks this morning and institutions. Can't say enough for our partners in terms of Mineta Transit Workforce Center, ATU, and a whole lot of local and national and regional contributors to this program. The bottom line for us is that we are about introducing youth to American infrastructure and to the tremendous careers that are in this, that are across these sectors, with a particular focus on mobility and transportation, okay? We all talk about our people are our greatest resource, and the purpose of this program is to really help to nail that, and no one helps to nail that better than the workers and the people who are in this industry. Some of us have dropped into the industry, the journeys and how we get here and where we end up. And the reason we do this work is powerful, can never be expressed better than those who are in it. So what I'll tell you is that we are about the business of trying to bring on this next crew, as well as do everything we can to celebrate and elevate the visibility and the importance of people readiness, and really meaning what we say when we say that our people are our greatest resource. So with that, it's my pleasure to turn it over to a tremendous round of speakers this morning who will say it better than I could ever than any more that I could say. And to that, I'm going to turn it over. Pat, I think I turn it to you, and you will be kicking off with Dr. Karen Philbrick, who is our esteemed facilitator for the day, and can't thank everybody enough. Okay, thank you.
Absolutely right. Thanks so much, Bev, and welcome everyone. We're really excited to be co-hosting this session with Iyai, continuing Transit Workforce Center, International Transportation Learning Center, long-term partnership in supporting its work, Iyai's work, and the great work done by our close friend, Dr. Bev Scott. I'm Pat Greenfield. I'm Senior Director for Workforce Development at the International Transportation Learning Center and Transit Workforce Center. For over 2 decades, we've focused on work on career pathways, training, and advancement for the transit workforce. And as of 2 years ago, we've been operating the Transit Workforce Center, which is the Federal Transit Administration's first ever technical assistance center devoted entirely to workforce development. I'd like to kick off the program. We're going to have a series of terrific presentations for you, and everyone's doing this in a real tight time frame, so that we have time for you all in the audience to ask questions and to engage with the panel. And right now, for an overview, I'd like to introduce ITLC TWC Research Associate Shayna Gleason to talk with you about career opportunities for youth and share with you a bit of her own transit career story. So Shayna, welcome.
Very pleased to be with you all today, and yeah, I'm looking forward to talking a little bit about the next generation of the transit workforce, which are some of the folks that you all work with, and also a little bit about my own career path. Carissa, if you don't mind advancing to the next slide. So just to frame the conversation we're going to have today a little bit, the transit workforce is at a moment of really golden opportunity for younger workers who are looking to start a career in transit. The average age right now of the bus service and urban transit industry, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, is over a decade older than the US workforce at large. And this is a really substantial difference. And it means a couple of different things for young people with an interest in transit. The first is that there are many retirements on the horizon in our industry, and there are lots of jobs available. And also second, that there are many really seasoned mentors who are poised to pass along their knowledge to younger workers, and who are really excited to share, what they know and the knowledge they've accumulated over, a long career in transit onto the next generation as they sort of enter the later stages of their careers. And formal mentorship programs are actually on the rise in transit, which is really great news for our industry. And it makes things a lot easier as a new employee to kind of get your bearings, get acclimated to the job, and have a support system in place in the form of a mentor on the days when things are harder. Kyisha, if you could advance. There's a really vast array of positions a person can hold within transit. From the time they start out all the way through a really long career, just about any type of role you can imagine, there's something in transit that's related. So I will give you my own example, if you don't mind advancing. Slide. So I started out my career in transit at Access Transportation Systems. Access is the Pittsburgh area paratransit service. And for those who may not know, paratransit provides door-to-door public transportation to people who cannot use the fixed route service, as it's called. So that's buses, trains, things like that, because of a disability. So I came into the job really knowing very little about transit, frankly, other than that it was important. All I knew about it was from being a transit rider myself, but I loved the idea that my concerns about the environment and about fighting poverty and about empowering older people and people with disabilities, all of those were kind of addressed in this role. So I worked I worked training schedulers and dispatchers in this scheduling and dispatching software that Access uses for managing trips. I also worked doing some community engagement activities. So I would recruit potential riders at senior centers. I would talk to riders about issues they were having with the service, build partnerships with city offices and other nonprofits to try and improve the service. And sometimes there was a little bit of pure silliness, a bit of which is depicted in this picture. We put on a little play at a conference about transit. So that's what this image is from. And, you know, on the whole, it could be a tough job at times, but it was also really rewarding to be part of an organization that really believed that every trip matters and that every rider matters. And subsequently, I've gone on to work on a PhD in gerontology, which is in progress. And I also now work with the ITLC and TWC, as Pat said. But as my career has evolved, this original experience doing this software training and community engagement in paratransit and working directly with riders has really been my North Star in terms of orienting me to what's important. And I know for any of you or for the young people that you work with who may decide to pursue a career in transit, as they move up their own career ladder, that first job is going to be really instrumental to them too in helping them to think about what matters to them. So with that, I will turn it back over to Pat.
Great. Thank you so much, Shayna. What I'd like to do now is turn the rest of the program over. Before I do, just a note, because I've seen a couple of notes in Q&A. If people have questions that come up throughout the program, I'm sure Karen will repeat this throughout, please type questions in the Q&A section. But I'd like to turn the rest of the program over to Dr. Karen Philbrick, Executive Director of the Mineta Transportation Institute at San Jose University, another long-term partner with the industry, as well as for ITLC, TWC, and Iyai. Playing a critical role in supporting the industry and entry into these great careers. And we're really thrilled that Karen is joining us today and coordinating the rest of the program. So take it away, Karen. And Kyisha, I think you can take the slide down and spotlight Karen, and then we can spotlight from now on.
All right. Well, thank you so much for that warm introduction. I'm delighted to be with everybody today. And Shayna, I really appreciated you sharing some of those highlights and some of those statistics, because what I took away from your comments is the power of saying yes to opportunity. And you never know where that will take you and to the wonderful careers that are available in transportation. So very grateful for those comments. I'll be facilitating the discussion today. Let me stress to all of our participants who have joined us, this is intended to be a dynamic and meaningful exchange. So please do drop your questions into that Q&A feature, not the chat, the Q&A feature, and I will be monitoring that continuously. After each of our 5 presenters make brief comments, we'll go directly into that facilitated discussion. But for today, we've asked each of our 5 esteemed panelists to focus on a 5-minute presentation where they touch on 4 major areas. The first being how they started in the industry and what that entry position was. Some cases it could have been bus operator, or it could have been something else and they've risen to the top. Also, how they got from where they started to where they are now. What sort of opportunities, what sort of champions and mentors did they have along the way? Then I'm going to ask them to describe the basis of their work and the key elements of their job. And finally, rounding out that 5-minute presentation, they'll talk about how their work is personally rewarding and what they enjoy best. I'll be introducing the speakers very briefly now. Please trust me that each of these individuals are experts in their own right. They deserve a long and distinguished introduction, but we only have 46 minutes left together today, so I'm simply going to use their name and title and urge you to look them up online. Everybody's got LinkedIn profiles and agency bios for you to refer to. We will be having Inez Evans, the president of CEO in IndyGo, kick us off. She will be followed by one of her coworkers, Kyisha Bond, who's a mechanic apprentice at IndyGo. Really looking forward to those two talking together. And by the way, fun fact about Inez, she has got one of the most stunningly beautiful singing voices you will ever hear. And she can bring you to tears with some of the songs that she sings. Wish we had time to show off that talent today, Inez. After those two chat, we'll go to Marvin Alfred, who's the president of the Amalgamated Transit Union Local 113 in Toronto. So our friends to the north. He is partnering with Andrew Falotico, which I think I pronounced that right. He's the health and safety representative for ATU Local 113, also in Toronto. And finally, rounding out our time together, we'll turn to Desiree Patrice, Deputy Chief of Capital Transformation at the MBTA in Boston. All right, with all of that, let's get started. Inez, take the floor.
Wow, I'm so embarrassed already before we even get started. But thank you for having me today. This is such a great conversation and one that is just near and dear to my heart. But to start off, my career started as a customer service agent in Bremerton, Washington for Kitsap Transit. Ex-Navy, needed a job, and they were hiring. Besides being, you know, in the Navy, the transit agency was the next top employer in Bremerton, Washington. So I applied. I did, in fact, try to become a bus driver. Yes, tried to become a bus driver, but I can't drive my own car very well. So driving a 40-foot bus wasn't my thing. So, so I started as a customer service agent, but didn't stop there. I sought opportunities. I took on dispatching. I took on scheduling. I did everything I could to just learn the business from the ground up. That opened up an opportunity to go on the public side to become a scheduling manager for a contract in paratransit for Day of Transportation in Washington, D.C. And so that started me on an 11-year journey working on the private side. I became a general manager of my first facility of only 30 buses. I had to learn how to do a little bit of everything. When you're on the private side, you become a jack of all trades. General manager, from a district manager to a regional vice president, and then became director of paratransit again for Capital Metro in Austin, Texas. Then director of bus facilities, bus operations at MARTA, then chief operating officer in Cincinnati, chief of staff and chief operating officer of San Jose, California, and now president and CEO of IndyGo. So now I left out a lot of moves because I've moved 18 times. You don't have to do that, but that's what it took for me to move forward and move around in my career. You know, some of the basic things that, you know, I do now, you know, I think what's helped me is that because I kind of grew up in the industry, you kind of become a jack of all, but a master of a few. And I think, you know, what's key to my job is that as the CEO, I don't have to know everything. it's important that I surround myself with very capable individuals who are subject matter experts. I'm not an engineer. I'm not a mechanic. That's why I hire capable and competent individuals, but it's also about partnerships. And, you know, we'll hear more about our partnerships with the ATU. What I find most rewarding about what I do is that we're able to service the community. You know, some people see this as a job, and I see it more as part of who I am as a servant leader. It's what I'm called to do. And so that's what I find to be the most rewarding thing. And, you know, I'm proud every single day when I know the men and women who help to put this service on the street are able to do so, and that we have the backing and support for them to take care of that. Along the way, I've been able to be blessed with having some great mentors. One is on this call today, Dr. Beverly Scott. So even as a CEO, I still have mentors. And I think that's important for individuals to understand that no matter how high on the ring you become, that you still need to have those individuals that you can call upon. Nuria Fernandez, our FTA administrator, is still a mentor and a friend. And so if you get nothing out of this, try to remember that you need to have those sounding boards, those individuals who can bring you back to reality. And I'm proud of the fact that I mentor a number of individuals as well within my career role. And so I'm going to leave it at that. I'm going to give some of my time over to my team member. I don't know, Karen, do I bounce it to her automatically, or are you going to bounce it for me?
I'm going to bounce it because I want to take away a couple of summary comments. And
okay.
Thank you for gifting us back 37 seconds. Love that on-time performance. I had my timer
on, so I was timing myself.
Women know how to keep on time. And I knew there was a reason I really liked you, Inez, because my Dr. Bev Scott and Nuria are two of my favorite champions and mentors, and we share that in common.
Yep.
But I think what was so interesting, again, carrying through the theme of say yes to opportunity, is moving 18 times. That's a super heavy lift.
And I am a professional mover, which I think makes logistics and transportation just so seamless for me.
That's incredible. And I think it's the story you're telling, and with your partner joining you, Kyisha, it's really demonstrating the careers available from the front line to the C-suite. But one of the very powerful things you said was about mentorship. And sometimes we talk about mentorship, and sometimes we talk about champions or allies. What that means for some of our participants, a mentor will often give you advice and tell you what you should do. An ally or a champion takes it a step further. They're going to make sure to get you a seat at that table with people who are hiring. They're going to put you in real time with opportunity that can lead to greater success.
Absolutely correct. Nuria is a champion and a mentor. It was because of Nuria Fernandez, who was my boss at VTA, who said you need to apply to become the CEO at IndyGo. And so what boss does that, you know, if she's not a mentor, an ally, and a champion? So I put her in all three of those buckets.
That's right, because that can hurt the person that's helping to promote you because it leaves a hole on their team. And the last point, because I know we're on a timeline, I loved how you drew the distinction of hiring subject matter experts, because basically you hire to your weakness. Don't hire someone just like you, hire someone that's going to complement you so you have all that ground covered. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Inez. And let's kick it off to Kyisha now, please. Kyisha, take the floor.
Hey everyone, my name is Kyisha and I'm a mechanic apprentice. I began my career as a general laborer starting off. I was too afraid to start off as a coach operator because I didn't know how to drive one of those big old buses. But I thought that was a great way to get my feet wet and then work my way through. So that was my plan. So I started off cleaning the buses, driving them, fueling them, and I got a small concept of, you know, how the buses operate, how to take care of them and things like that, and also get comfortable with driving them because you have to drive them through the washing machine. I got acquainted with them, and a lot of the supervisors and things were telling me to, you know, apply to go in the garage, be a mechanic. And I was like, no, I want to be a coach operator because I wanted to get my CDL. And I felt like I was ready. So when I was only a general laborer for like 4 months, and then I had applied to be a coach operator. And that was the first time I met Miss Inez. I remember she came to my graduation, and that was a very overwhelming moment. And I was so proud of myself when I graduated because I felt very accomplished that I, overcame, my fears of driving those buses. And I learned a lot of things on how to communicate with dispatch if I had any issues. And I made like great friends. And then while I was being a coach operator, that's how I stumbled over being the apprenticeship program. It was not made up yet, but it was just being spoken of. But I have a mechanic background already. And I feel like that was a great opportunity to work my way through and brush up against my skills, because what I've learned was like a while ago. I haven't had my hands on on a diesel engine or anything in a while. So I'm like, hey, if I do that, I can, brush up on my skills, learn something new, work with great people, stuff like that. And when the application thing came through, I most definitely applied, and I didn't know I was going to be the first one to apply at first. So they were like, hey, you're the first woman to apply and get hired as a apprenticeship mechanic. And I'm like, oh, wow. Like I was shocked because everybody was talking about like getting at it because it was such a great opportunity, which it was. They offer a lot. And I do encourage anybody to get into this program. If you don't know anything like mechanic wise, like this is the best start, honestly. But what I like best about working my way through my career with IndyGo is that a lot of people help you. Like a lot of people, if you don't know something, they love to help you. I've developed great relationships with people. And I feel they make me feel like I can move higher, and there's no limit, so I just feel like, that's the move for me, and I really love it. And but the guys that I work with, they don't make me feel like you're a woman, what are you doing in this area? They make me feel like, hey, as long as you can do the job, like that's all that matters. So I love what I do.
Oh, I love that enthusiasm, Kyisha. And I particularly like the fact that you are being treated as the whole person and not just the woman on the scene. So thank you for talking about the courage it took to basically face your fears. I mean, you had to do that in order to land this position. And I think that's a very powerful lesson. So thank you, thank you, thank you for your time. And let's turn now to Marvin Alfred, the president of the Local 113 in Toronto. Marvin, please take it away.
Hello, good evening, good afternoon, everybody.
There you are. Okay,
there you go. How you doing? Good afternoon. I'm the president of A2 Local 113 here in Toronto. A little bit about myself. I was hired in 2001 as a bus operator in Toronto, driving for the TTC, and I did that for about 7 years or so before I began to get interested in the union. A little personal story. My father, in his own union, was a treasurer for his union for about 18 years. Ironically enough, he actually did not want me to get involved in the union because he says, he had, wanted to warn his son about the trials and tribulations about being a union advocate. And sometimes it's a thankless job. And he was trying to look out for his son. But going against your dad's advice, sometimes not always the best option. But I'm proud to say that it's one of the most rewarding things I've ever done in my life. I was 8 years on a job and became a health and safety rep. And then I was blessed to be elected as a shop steward, and running against somebody with 3 times the seniority that you do. It's tough to do, and I was able to persevere, and I became a shop steward for about 600 individuals, re-elected again for the same amount of people. And then I became an executive in 2016 and being representative full-time for 1,300 people as a rep. It was really rewarding. to be there, to be an advocate for people when they have their times of need, to be their, their spokesperson and try to confront the employer if and when there's an injustice against your members. It's a proud feeling to have that support and have people that have helped me along the way and doing what I can to help others to quote unquote, leave this place in better shape than I found it, to do what I can to be an advocate and help people along the way to have an easier path than myself to get where they're going. So going back to my story as a union rep, was very proud to do the shop steward role for about 6 years, became an executive for about 6 years. And then in December of 2001, I was elected as president of ATU Local 113 here in Toronto, representing about 12,000 transit workers here in Toronto. And we have a wealth of different technical skills that we represent, from transit operators, bus, subway, streetcar, mechanics, coach technicians, track and structure, administrative, clerical, upholsterers, collectors, skilled trades. We have a wealth of people that we represent, which means there's a vast, diverse number of issues that maybe have with the employer. And we do what we can to make sure that they have an advocate against the employer and against the government. Myself, I'm the president leading an executive board of 17 full-time officers here in Toronto. And we have about 60 shop stewards that we also represent here in Toronto as well. Some of the things that I like to do, or that my role does entail, is representing the members. We deal with the financial aspects, obviously. We deal with political action, being a public advocate. In the last year or so, we've had some unfortunate incidents where there's been violence in transit. A number of people have lost their lives regarding senseless violence in the public and transit. And then people turned to us as the union, whenever we were speaking to media, to be an advocate for a safer work environment and safer transit. And it turned into where we became kind of a national, voice for the issues that are happening regarding lack of funding in transit that's hurting all people in transit, not just transit workers, transit riders. So that was an interesting, rewarding feeling that people are looking upon us, not just for the realm of our work environment, but for everybody's safety. And we're very proud of that. Some of the other things that we're dealing with as well, just dealing with funding, dealing with trying to confront different levels of government regarding the gaps in funding. And that kind of perpetuated where a lot of people are seeking the union for the authentic voice in what's going on and what's needed in public services and regarding funding and where the government resources are being deployed, and how we are going to stand up as champions for not having the transit riders and transit workers being looked upon as a disposable, renewable resource. That we have to stand up and we have to do what we can to ensure that people are treated with respect and dignity, whether it's people that are underhoused or whether people are just the riding public. People are looking to the union as leaders and union in order to help advocate for their needs. So I can go on. I know I have a time limit and I don't want to get yanked too early, but if there's any questions you'd like to ask of me regarding anything I've discussed, I would be more than happy to share that with you.
Perfect, Marvin. Thank you. And I am monitoring the Q&A feature, and I have a burning question. Did Daddy forgive you for going against his advice and becoming a leader in this area?
Well, I can't say he's proud of me. I'll just say he's a little less disappointed in me. That's probably Just kidding. He's very proud of me. He's a man of few words. And I do appreciate that he was trying to look out for me, because being a Black union leader or any person of color in a position of leadership, sometimes there's a different level of scrutiny that you may have that others do not. And we have to do what we can and make sure that we get, regardless of people's preconceived notions, that anybody and everybody deserves an opportunity to persevere. And hopefully we've done that bit by being reelected multiple times and unopposed, that we do what we can. So my dad was looking out for his son. So I'm glad he's still looking out for me. Well,
thank you for your transparency and your authenticity, and quite frankly, your courage. Once again, we see that demonstrated amongst our panelists. And I'm kind of emotionally porous, as Bev knows, so I'm covered in goosebumps because I think these stories are so rich and so meaningful. So thanks for taking the time, Marvin. Let's go to your partner now at the ATU Local 113, Andrew Falotico. I know I nailed it, Andrew. I got that pronunciation.
Excellent, excellent pronunciation. And I just want to extend some gratitude and appreciation for being invited here today, being part of this panel and reaching out and being able to express the stories that have come about in the last 40 years of my journey. So I want to start back. I entered into transit in the early 90s. I am a licensed automotive technician. Prior to that, as an automotive technician, I worked in the dealership. And the reason why I'm mentioning this is that we hit a recession And I realized that I no longer could work at the dealership because there was just no money to be made there to support my family and so on. And it was my wife that said, hey, you know, maybe you should go work for transit. And, you know, I was a big shot automotive technician working on Camaros and high-end vehicles, Cadillacs and so on. And I felt it like I had to humble myself to actually go work on buses. But I'll never look back because as the journey began, I was part of an agency and part of a union that actually took me in. And you want to talk about mentorship right off the bat, they told us you have opportunities here, you can advance yourself. And they also made a point of saying, if you want to further your education, you can. You know what? I took advantage of that. And actually all my education on top of my automotive licensed technician education was paid for by the transit agency and also supported by our union. So I further went and became an adult trainer for education, for automotive, and for health and safety. And I just wanted to mention that because opportunities are there. And so I don't think everybody realizes what an agency or a union can offer. Further to that, what my work offers me right now, and just a little bit about myself. So I'm a health and safety representative. I represent the interests of 12,000 union workers. And I oversee 54 joint health and safety committees, which is approximately about 200 representatives. So I have a very busy schedule with having to deal with hazards and having to deal with making sure people are safe. Our industry up here in Toronto, we're moving 1.8 million people a day. Violence and harassment is on the rise. There's a lot of things that we need to be cognizant of to make sure our public is safe and make sure our workers are safe. Now, I just want to let you know, being in this position and what it offers me is about learning to serve and being in a position of gratitude of serving as many people as I can. I have a motto in myself is, how many people can I help in a day? Usually I try and help 3 people a day, but being in this position, because I was mentored to be able to help, I have actually passed that torch on. And I try and remind everybody, we need to be able to help as many people as we can. Now, transit, for those who are listening today, I want you to take a hard look at what transit really is. It is a machine, it's a mechanism that moves our economy, it moves people, it brings relationships together, it supports education. Think about it. If transit stopped for one day in North America, our economy, our families, our education, everything would come to a standstill because we are moving people and we are moving people to be successful. And, you know, every day when I go to work and I think about moving 1.8 million people and keeping people safe, that is very inspiring to me. And I take on that responsibility wholeheartedly. And I try and remind people what we can do to make a difference. And I think it's very important, whoever is listening today and whoever who wants to advance themselves and look at a position in transit, it's about paying forward because we're in a position of safety. Having said that, there's a lot of other things that I think are very important to realize. We are in changing times. 10 or 15 years ago, we weren't talking about equity, diversity, and equality. We now have those tools in place. And here's the Coles notes of that. And this is what that means. It means that we want people to be supported in their work environment. We want people to be successful. And if I can conclude by saying something, get yourself in a position with the transit industry. It is very important. It moves our economy. It moves education. It moves people. But most importantly, we can take an opportunity like this to better our lives and to better other people's lives. And I'm willing to take as many questions right now. And, you know, I can go on forever on how grateful I am for being in this industry, but we need to realize something. Transit is an essential service that makes us come together, not only as a family, but as through all of the public means. And we're moving economy and we're moving people. And I think that's a great thing. And
I think I'm sorry, I'm going to cut in here, Andrew, because it's past time. But no truer words have ever been spoken. And I feel your passion. And we don't have enough time to express that full passion, but I'd like to really underscore one of the things you said, which is how diversity, equity, and inclusion has now become part of the conversation. It's not an initiative, it is, and we must have that woven through everything we do. And I just want to draw one little distinction. I may have misheard you, but I thought I heard you say equality. And I want to make sure that for our listening guests, that we really emphasize it's equity.
Equity, yeah.
Everybody gets the same thing. Equity
Correct.
means that people get the resources necessary to create a level playing field.
Yeah, thank you for the correction. Awesome, yes. And equality, you can throw that in there too as a side note if you like.
And so I think you're also really demonstrating how transportation is one of our nation's 16 critical infrastructures that, if harmed through man-made or natural disaster, would have a devastating impact on our nation's safety, security, and economic viability. And finally, the third most powerful takeaway I took from what you said is transportation connects us all. It touches every one of our lives. Even if we're living off the grid, we use an active mode of transportation to get from point A to point B. So thank you for really underscoring that. And I look forward to engaging you more in the facilitated discussion. But with that, we're going to turn to Desiree Patrice. Desiree, your 5 minutes, please.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me this afternoon. I'm Desiree Patrice. I am a civil engineer by profession and work in the Boston area. I joined full-time in the industry in about 1996 as a field engineer in the private sector. And since then, I have been introduced to transportation somewhat by accident by working on many different industry leading things, including the big dig of the Central Artery in Boston, which at one point was the leading project in the United States. But from there, in 2008, I joined the MBTA and was handed a $147 million project called the Vertical Transportation Program that was linked to a lawsuit by the Boston Center for Independent Living. So here you are, a civil engineer with structural background to do basically a mechanical endeavor, which I handled and managed to do it and moved on from there. But listening to all the people before me talking about the different influences on their life. As a young Black woman, civil engineering in Boston, it is not easy to see anybody that look like you so you can say, this is what I want to be. Well, over the years from being at the MBTA as a project manager, you know, I've run into other people of color as an architect, as a consultant working with me, and we help each other, feed off each other and push each other. But lo and behold, later on in around 2015, 2016, here comes somebody that I see in a position. I'm like, aha. Working with that person gave me a light bulb and say, this is what I want to be. And who was that person? Was Bev Scott, which kind of gave me the enthusiasm and the power to keep pushing. So here I am. It's 2023. I am the deputy chief of capital transformation. I co-lead with our chief, Angel Pena, and we have capital transformation, which is a 10 billion. So just give you a few numbers. We are about 36 individuals, very diverse individuals, dealing with 105 projects that influence a number of customers in the Boston area. And these 105 projects are about $10 billion worth of assets. So this is what we do. What we are currently doing is to improve safety, bring the infrastructure into a state of good repair, enhancing accessibility and replacing legacy fleets and modernizing rider experience. So yeah, every day I stay busy with the program with strategic planning and execution of how to bring the MBTA back into a state of good repair. We work directly to impact riders' way of life. But one of the things that bring me so much joy is the influence that we have on moving people to give them that quality commute. so they don't have to worry about how to get from point A to B. Also, especially in the areas that we deserve to advance the ridership in the areas that require the environmental justice areas. So definitely. I got into that area because too many times I saw people who are in these areas basically being neglected. And when I worked with Dr. Scott in a certain area, and we gave them what was originally promised to them, and it was the first time during the opening, they said, it is the first time that we got what we were promised. So that has fueled me to continue to take different positions that was offered. It wasn't easy, but it was something that was worth doing.
And Desiree, therein lies that theme that we've had through all of our speakers, which is one, Bev Scott, who happened to have a emphasis and a really positive influence on many of the speakers here today. So Bev, we love you and we're eternally grateful. And you're the third speaker, Desiree, to really talk about the impact of courage and how that's led you to greater heights. We're going to move now in our last 13 minutes into the facilitated discussion. For those of you listening in, we did have a few questions addressed to Inez, who answered those in real time. One that you might be interested in is what time frame did those 18 moves happen in? And that's been over her 31-year career. And then also asked was, how do you identify your mentor or your champion? Some really good feedback is make sure you get somebody that has a subject matter expertise that you do not, or who supports you or adds to your strength in different ways. Right now, we do have a question, and this is for our Toronto participants specifically, which is, can you please expand on the work that you've done to protect bus operators? Marvin, would you like to go first, or Andrew?
I'll start, if you don't, and Andrew can jump in as well. Some of the things we've done to protect bus operators is recently we've had a unfortunate situation where we had a number of assaults, acts of violence, and things like that. We've advocated for resources. They've had the city and the agency change the way that they've addressed safety issues. Some of the things that were short-sighted, and we even called them out on that, where they redeployed the local police service to have a presence in the system and found $1.5 million that they said they never originally had, but that was just to quell the media scrutiny that was going on because we were hammering them in the media. And what we're looking for is long-term sustained solutions, not the veneer of something to placate the public. And they were actually reaching our collective agreement to do some of these things, and we have to grieve that again. And we are dealing with the political spectrum as opposed to trying to find long-term solutions. Andrew will probably expand on some of the things that we're doing regarding barriers, regarding a lot of safety principles. We had a joint labor management task force that we had in order to help address some of the assaults and some of the violence that was happening in transit. Because I think when people sometimes see the acts of violence happening to transit workers and happening to other transit riders, they had a suspicion of safety. And we won't have people return from the COVID pandemic downward spiral of impact with what's going on. Unfortunately, we had a city as well that was allowing the transit system to be part of the shelter network. So unfortunately, when you have the governments not supporting and putting the resources into, shelter beds and other mental and wellness issues, people were turning to 24-hour transit, which was causing an issue amongst the public. And then there were allegations regarding transit workers being abused or transit riders suffering at the hands of some of these things with people that were in need of care. So as transit, we wanted people to get more resources, not less resources, to help them get out of the transit system. I'm an advocate for transit and I'm an advocate for people to get the social services they need, but we want those services to help them to get out of the system. I believe that the transit system should be there to get you to your destination. The transit system should not be your destination, as a home and as a supplement for the funding that should be going from the province into shelter and care. So sorry to go off on a tangent on that kind of thing, but this is something that we feel that the system is broken and we need to hold the agencies and government agencies to provide the adequate funding and not have these agencies dazzle the public regarding capital spending as opposed to dedicated operation and service spending that they like to ignore. We have a problem in Toronto where a lot of the transit agency management staff suffer a repetitive injury with the one they suffer the most are sprained shoulders from patting themselves on the back. Right? So these are the things that we encounter with these agencies and municipal, provincial, federal governments that we're trying to call them out on. So I'll cutting into Andrew's time. Andrew, if you want to go ahead.
Andrew, we'll give you about 30 seconds to 60 seconds because we've got some other questions posed. So what would you like to add to what President Marvin said?
Thank you, Karen. And so just it's a perfect segue. We did put together a joint labor management committee. The premise of that committee was to prevent assault prevention to our operators or frontline workers. But I just want to make a point here. The committee also looked at the underlying causes of perhaps what's going on in Toronto. So we took a hard look at mental health. We took a look at the homeless. We looked at having campaigns with the public. We want to develop a relationship with the public. We want to bring it back. And most importantly, folks, we need to bring back the respect and dignity that transit deserves to have, that we once had, but now got a little diluted through the perhaps maybe through the political correctiveness. But the reality is we're on a path right now of developing relationships, helping people who don't even take our transit because they are part of our community. Transit is about supporting community. It's not just moving people, it's being an example of how we're going to help and make our cities stronger and better. And I can go on all day on that one, Karen, but I'm going to leave it like that. And thank you for allowing me to speak on this.
Well, I just appreciate your comments. It just really helps enlighten all of us. And I think when you talk about transportation today, two of the most critical issues we're facing is A, the workforce shortage, which we're all aware of, and B, operator assault as well as passenger assault. And building on what you said earlier, Marvin, as we struggle to regain ridership across the nation on our transit systems, which incidentally, the average recovery rate is about 70%. But when you look closer in the Bay Area, for example, BART, which pre-COVID was the 5th busiest passenger rail system in the nation, has only recovered 30% of its ridership. And part of that is making sure that people feel comfortable and they feel safe on those systems because they do provide such a vital, vital lifeline. Now, Inez, I saw you shaking your head a lot, so I want to give you the courtesy of asking if you'd like to contribute something to that same answer.
I just wanted to jump out of my seat when Marvin was talking about needing that support. I mean, we just cannot stress the significance of having support from our city and our state officials to support the efforts to protect our people out on the roads. When we have to fight to get legislative action taken to protect our people, something's wrong. Something is wrong with that. And it's sad here that we are having to beg to have a law put into place that makes it a felony to assault a transit worker.
That's right.
It is just absolutely sad. So it goes back to bringing the dignity back, the pride. When COVID happened, they were like, oh, please don't stop running IndyGo, please don't stop running. And they did that across the country. Well, our operators are getting assaulted at a staggering rate. And I understand that they don't have enough police officers to respond to things, but we are citizens. And we are putting on a vital service for our community and our employees need to be protected. So rah-rah.
I love it. I love it. We've got consensual validation on topics of importance, and I think that's always important. And people have been dropping me more questions, so forgive me if you heard a little clatter. I'm making sure to respond to everyone here. We've got 6 minutes left. I've got a specific question for Desiree and one for Kyisha. Desiree, let's start with you. As a civil engineer and such a big advocate for trustworthy transit, what has been your biggest challenge working for the MBTA? Ooh, that's a good one.
That is a big one and a very loaded one. Don't know where to start. The thing is, the MBTA serve many different communities, and there's a wide spectrum. Is how we can keep transit equity throughout the entire communities that we serve. For example, we go to different communities, those that are affluent communities that are serviced by the commuter rail, and we have those that we have challenges with. So here we are in some of the different communities who want multi-million dollars, and those in the inner city just want a quarter of that million to make a change. So one of our biggest challenges is how to keep transit equity throughout the service. That's one of our biggest challenges. Another thing is, how can we improve your service without shutting down your service? Because we are not like, remember, Boston was the first subway in the country. And from there, the other teams learn how to create redundancy on their lines. We run 20 hours a day, which leaves 4 hours for maintenance. How do we keep you running with the smallest amount of disruption? So that is one of our biggest challenges right now, which is what we are working on. And we, our transformation team, are putting together a lot of the initiatives to help that and to see how we can get it done. That is one of our biggest challenges, I can say right now. As a civil engineer, it opens a lot of opportunities to do a number of things, not only in transportation. It goes across the spectrum, but transportation is where you might use the most of the different subjects that you learn in school and put it into use.
Very good. Thank you for that, Desiree. Dr. Bev, I see your hand, but before I come to you, we have one more question from an audience member. Kyisha, this is for you. What do you enjoy most about your job? Pretty easy one, but we'd love to hear your answer. And your eyelashes are fabulous.
Thank you. What I enjoy most about my job is the hands-on experience, the team building, getting acquainted with my team. And what surprised me most is what I had kind of said in my introduction, is that no one looks at me and be like, hey, that's a female. Oh my God, she's going to mess up everything because this is pretty much predominantly male. Instead, they make me feel so welcome that it makes me feel like I can do what, the job, and they make me feel very comfortable. Like, that's what I like most about my job.
You gave me goosebumps yet again, but I think it also reflects your own strength to be open to that support, to see that as support and to embrace it, to help lift you further. Awesome, Kyisha. Dr. Bev, what's your question?
Well, I got a couple of just perspectives.
You got 2 minutes.
Okay. One, I keep hearing this theme, which is right up my heart of really what it's all about is community building. Okay. And that's who we are. We're not selling infrastructure, but these careers really give you an opportunity to be able to give back and to really, make a difference. We help drive outcomes for people in communities, but also about innovation and rethinking. This is not your mama, daddy's, grandparents' public transportation nor world. Okay. And so I just kind of want to set that with the team of our tremendous group of speakers. And would you speak a little bit to, we can't do it the way we've been doing things. Okay. And I'm saying, and so what are some of the big drivers and things that are on your, like you say, well, yeah, we're going to have to rethink and change and move forward with the time. So let me just kind of put that there and just, what are your immediate takeaways from that?
Up to 30 seconds for each responder. Who would like to kick off? Inez.
I think the biggest thing is that we have to partner with all of our workers, especially our ATU partners. The creation of apprenticeship programs and mentorship programs, they didn't exist back, in your grandmama's type of transportation, but they are imperative right now in order to adapt to new technologies and new business models. And so to me, that is what we have to do now, transitioning from diesel technology to high voltage. We can't do that by ourselves, and working together is how we're going to continue to move this system forward.
Partnering, absolutely, 100%. Desiree, would you like to respond next?
Oh, sure. Partnering is one of our biggest, partnering and collaboration is one of our biggest challenges that we believe we need to use. The way we do business is going to change. So this is why we are trying to do the repairs in a whole different way, trying to do full shutdowns when we can and have a combination of different entities on at the same time. Can no longer depend on just one at a time. We got to do more in order for us to get more. Now we cannot just get stuck and thinking that it's only within our urban areas that needs help. We need to expand beyond where we are, because it's going to take transportation to move everything that we are trying to do. No
That's
longer
right.
the car is going to be the king around here. Transit, before people would say a train passing close to your house is a devaluation of my property. Now it is not. We want to be able to walk to it. So we have to learn how to do it differently and do it better than how it's been.
In fact, Desiree, some scientific studies show that when you introduce a new transit stop in close proximity to real estate, that prices increase up to 11%. And that's in the Bay Area, which is substantial. Yep. We are 45 seconds past our time, but out of respect, Marvin, Andrew, Kyisha, would you like to add anything very quickly to this answer?
Very, very quickly, I was just saying, getting involved with political action, getting involved with the background and influence, and organized minority is a political majority, that there's always opportunities to have people of influence and respect anybody that's organized. I think that never goes without saying, that having people respect that we have the authority, and all, whether it's workers, whether it's a group of individuals with that reflective community, that being organized can't be stopped. Sorry, I'll give other people some time.
That's great. Bev, are you comfortable with me taking 30 more seconds to see if Andrew or Kyisha?
I'm fine.
Okay, Andrew, Kyisha, any last tidbits? Okay, well, you guys have been outstanding, and I personally took away 5 key takeaway messages, and that includes the power of partnership, collaboration, giving people dignity, not only our writers, but the people who are in our employment and who are making the systems move, really saying yes to opportunity, and finally, making sure you have courage and you meet every challenge and opportunity with an open mind, a transparent attitude, and we can get it done kind of feeling. So Bev, that concludes the panel. Please, everybody, join me in thanking Desiree, Inez, Kyisha, Andrew, and Marvin, and I kick it back to you. You guys are awesome.
I'm telling you, just awesome. And then if you would, once again, the thank you to everybody. I just want to, these do not get lost. Okay, we have a treasure trove. We're across 4 time zones. Everything is recorded. Everything is available to all of our participating youth, and we make everything free to the public, okay, at no charge. So this is absolutely unbelievable. We got 2 more lunch and learns coming up. We have been doing a lot with the youth. Well, the next one that's coming up, this is our 91 years young, okay, unbelievable civil rights icon and businesswoman, African-American businesswoman in the Bay Area. She moved with the Black Panthers way back when. So this promises to really be exciting, and that's next week, Miss Laverta Allen. Then the wrap up, which is intentionally on National Transportation Day, May 19th, is to kick off one element of our program, which is critical conversations with youth, okay, about what about our careers do we need to be highlighting more and talking and sharing more. And then we're gonna have a candid conversation and shut up and listen to youth say to us, and really document this and work on it. What is it that's not attractive that they really aren't that crazy about? They got ideas and thoughts they want to share in terms of how we might help to transform or co-create together. And once again, cannot thank all the partnerships. Amalgamated is absolutely an essential for us, and I have to shout it out. I tell people all the time, 80% of the folks in North America that are in these careers are unionized. And if you don't, and if you don't have labor at the table, any of the things you're talking about trying to do from a transformative standpoint with people is just not happening, okay? And so we've been honored to have them, as well as Mineta Transportation Institute and ITLC, who's now the Transit Workforce Center, and many others, okay, that have joined with us for this program, and we're very, very honored. So I'm gonna let you go, so they don't have to put the little 2 minutes up on me. But anyway, thank you very much, and this definitely will be shared, well, really throughout at least North America. So thank you so much. God bless.
Thank you. God bless.
Take care. Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Bye.